Hello students, I am Pialina, your biology teacher, and I welcome you all to the biology e-learning classes. Okay, so let's get started. Okay. We will in my last video we have gone through the structure of DNA, right? The basic structure, the molecular structure of DNA. Today that is the polynucleotide chain, right? Now we will continue with the structure of DNA, where we know that DNA is a double helix structure, right? That means the salient feature, what does the salient features of a double helix structure of DNA consist? That means DNA is made up of two polynucleotide chains, where the backbone is constituted by the sugar phosphate and the nitrogen base project inside, right? Last day we have gone through this backbone, the structure of this backbone, the sugar phosphate, the nitrogenous base, and the phosphate group. Okay, now if you go through the structure of DNA, right, if you go through the structure of DNA, the two chains are anti-parallel. Last day I have told you that the DNA has polarity, that is the end in which the phosphate group is free, that is 5 dash, and the end in which the hydroxyl group is free, that is the 3 dash. And the DNA is made up of this type of two chains, and these two chains are arranged in a anti-parallel manner. That is, if the one is straight and the other is the upside down. Okay, that means one chain will have polarity 5 dash to 3 dash, and the other will have the polarity 3 dash to 5 dash, right? So the bases in the two strands of the DNA are held together by hydrogen bonds. Then how these two strands of the DNA, or the two chains of the DNA, are linked? Actually, the nitrogenous bases are being linked. The nitrogenous base of one DNA strand is linked with the nitrogenous base of the other DNA strand by hydrogen bonds. Now, one nucleotide in a DNA is linked with the next nucleotide DNA is by phosphodiester bond, while the two strands of DNA is linked with the linked through the nitrogenous bases by the hydrogen bonds, right? Now, with whom the pairing takes place? Usually, among the nitrogenous base, the adenine pairs up with the thymine with two hydrogen bonds, right? And the cytosine pairs up with guanine with 3 hydrogen bonds. Okay. Now, the two chains are coiled in a right-handed fashion. Means it is like a wire of the telephone, of a landline phone, right? If you fold the wire of the landline phone in your right side, it will form one strand of the DNA. Okay, so the two chains are coiled in a right-handed fashion, and there are about 10 base pairs in each turn, with a distance of 0.34 nm between the two base pairs, right? Now, the plane of one base pair always stacks over the other in the double helix, which in addition to H bond provides stability to the helical structure. Okay. Now, this was all about the structure of DNA. Now, after we finish the structure of DNA, we start with the topic central dogma. What is a central dogma in molecular biology? It states that the genetic information, the transfer of genetic information from DNA to RNA to protein, this particular process is known as central dogma. The process of central dogma involves three things, that is, the first one is the replication, the second one is the transcription, the third one is the translation. Okay, now we come to the packaging of DNA helix. Okay, the length of the DNA is usually calculated by multiplying the total number of base pairs with distance between the two consecutive base pairs. Okay, like in case of diploid content of human DNA, it is 6.6 into 10 to the power 9 base pairs. Distance between two consecutive base pairs is 0.34 nm. Okay, and this is how the approximate DNA length in human cell is 2.2 meters. It is an approximate distance. Okay, now in case of prokaryotes, right, a well-defined nucleus is absent. And again, DNA, since I have explained you in my last video why DNA is negatively charged, DNA is negatively charged. It is organized in large loops with some positively charged proteins in a region, and which together along with the DNA and the proteins form the nucleoid. But in case of proteins in case of eukaryotes, there is a set of positively charged basic proteins which are called histone proteins. Okay, why positive? Because the whole thing is a neutral. Since DNA is negatively charged, so the proteins which are being bound has to be positively charged. Okay, so and since DNA is slightly acidic in nature, the proteins are basic in nature. Okay, the proteins which surround the DNA molecule are known as the histone proteins. Okay, a protein acquires charge depending upon the abundance of amino acid with the charged side chain, right? The basic nature of the histone is basically due to the abundance of basic amino acid residues like lysine, arginines, etc. Now both of the amino acid residues carry positive charge, which actually bind up to form the octamer. What is an octamer? Octamer is octa refers to 8, right? So it is organized to form a unit of 8 molecules and collectively called histone octamer. Now the negatively charged DNA is actually wrapped around the positively charged histone octamer, and the whole thing in case of eukaryotes is called a nucleosome. So you know the difference between the nucleoid and the nucleosome, right? What is it? The nucleoid is found in the prokaryotes and it is not such complex. Okay, where the negatively charged DNA is looped with some positively charged protein, while in case of eukaryotes it is called a nucleosome and it is more complex, where the negatively charged DNA is bounded by few positively charged basic histone proteins like lysine and arginine, which form a octamer. Okay, now, and this is called a nucleosome. Now, nucleosome usually constitute the repeating units in the thread-like structure called the chromatin. You are all aware of what basic is chromatin, and it appears as a bead on string when viewed under an electron microscope. When DNA is isolated from anything, it appears as a beaded structure. Okay. The chromatin is usually packed to form the fibers, and these fibers condense in future during the metaphase stage of cell division to form chromosomes, which actually undergoes cell division. Okay. The packaging of the chromatin at higher level requires additional set of proteins which are also called the non-histone chromosomal proteins, right? But in case of a nucleus, some of the regions of the chromatin is very loosely packed, and now the chromatins which are tightly packed, they stain deep, while the chromatins which are loosely packed, they stain light. The chromatin which are loosely packed and stain light are called the euchromatin. Okay, these are called the euchromatin. Now, while the other regions are tightly packed, the tightly packed regions, and they stain dark, since it's all about density, right? Since it is lightly packed, it has less density, so less stain, and called euchromatin. And heterochromatin, the densely packed chromatin, and it has high density, so heterochromatin. Okay, it is as simple as that. So this now the non-histone proteins in a typical in few things actually matters. The stain actually matters in case of isolation of DNA, where the DNA can be found. Okay, the densely packed heterochromatin contain actually the genes, right? The functional part of the DNA. Euchromatin may also contain the functional part of the DNA, but there are less genes present in compared to the heterochromatin. Okay, so today up to this. In my next video, we will start with the what made them to search for the genetic material, because they understood something is being passing on continuously from one generation to another generation, and that is how life is actually maintained. So we will start with the search for genetic material, that is the transforming principle. Thank you.